Good evening and welcome to another edition of Down to the Wire. And joining me again this week is Capping with Candace. Candace here. Candace, you're in Dubai this week, but we have some racing going on down in Louisiana. And first off, let's start with recapping the Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, I mean, really good race. I think, there were a couple of new shooters who were coming in and we didn't quite know where they fit. And Cupid showed us right away where he fit and it was right on top of that group. I left that race wondering really what the quality of opposition he beat was, but he did it stylishly. Um, his running style, I don't think he necessarily needs to be ridden that way. I think that was more of an aggressive move from the post position he drew. So I think that there's options for him going forward. I think I just really am left wondering what did he beat, which we say so much with these horses, but I do really wonder what he beat there. He'll come back in the Arkansas Derby, I presume, which Baffert obviously has a really good record in. So you'd expect him to have another good performance there. But when we're talking these top five Derby candidates, I wouldn't quite put him into that group just yet. Solid performance from Whitmore once again. I think he's a nice horse. I just don't think he's quite the top caliber of these, really classy Derby horses, but he's going to win some races.
Yeah, hopefully Whitmore can come back and run a solid Arkansas Derby as well, because he's ran three pretty solid races in a row, and his debut race was a big race, so he seems to fire every time. But the one time down at Delta, but that's a bull ring, and first time facing winners, and he was facing experienced winners that day too. Down with facing Sunny Ridge, who already had a 3-4 races, and Exaggerator, who had 3-4 races, so that wasn't an easy race. I thought Whitmore ran well. Creator seems to be kind of developing a little bit. And, sudden breaking news and Cherry Wine rounded out the top five. I don't know. I think we could maybe have a different result if they run the Arkansas Derby. I don't think we'll have a 14-horse field, and I think that does change the race dynamics.
Yes.
A 9 or 10-horse field is just different than a 14-horse field.
It is, and it gives maybe a little bit more of a fair chance. It seems like 14 horses, especially there at Oaklawn, going into that first turn at Oakland, it's so tight, and we keep seeing horses just flying out like 6-7 wide. Your race is already done when that happens, so a lot less of a possibility of things like that happening when you have a smaller field.
Collected down at Sunland, went nose to nose with Gettysburg all the way around the track. They ran 1-2. Gritty effort from both of them, and Collected, he's got some different options to be able to run in.
I think he does. I mean, this is a horse with some talent. We've seen him win a couple races now on this Derby trail. I don't think he's necessarily fast enough to be a real legitimate Derby contender, but he has some really nice stamina. And horses who can go out front like he can and can really just stay the trip, there's plenty of options for those types. I'd be interested in him at this point as like a Belmont contender. I think that he fits in a race like that. The race in Sunland, it wasn't quite what it could have been because of everything that happened down there with the quarantine and it got downgraded, but I thought it was a good race, and I think it's going to prove to be a formful race. We saw Gettysburg and Collected both went out along with one local horse, and they both pulled away from that local horse, which is exactly what you want to see as far as a race that's going to hold form going forward. So I think Gettysburg and Collected both ran well, but I think Collected, especially in some of these, 10, 12 furlong races, maybe in the summer, I think there's options for him.
And Gettysburg, it kind of erased a bad experience at Tampa, and maybe sometimes horses just don't take to Tampa, but plus he also was ridden a lot more. His win in a maiden race was aggressively ridden, and he was kind of passively ridden in the Destin race. So maybe Gettysburg is more of a horse that needs to be ridden early and kind of got into the pace, and he seems to be a better type of horse as well.
He does seem to be like that, and there are horses like that they just need to be really injected into the race early, and then they can keep up, especially ones who are a little bit more one pace like he is as well. So I thought it was a definitely improved effort, and it's good you mentioned Tampa because that is one of those tracks where we do sometimes see just horses just for some reason, one reason or another, don't take to the surface.
Well, this week we're going to talk about the Derby Dudes poll, and there's really no change in the top two. It continues to be Moy Haymen and Nyquist, and those two are going to battle off next week in the Florida Derby. And more Spirit kind of holding on to that third Spirit. It looks like overall Cupid kind of moved into the top 7 now. And the one thing is when we talk about the Louisiana Derby this week, it seems like we're going to kind of sort out some of those Louisiana horses. You got Greenpoint Crusader, Motom, and Gunrunner. We'll talk more about them as we actually talk about the race. But right now, do you think Cupid's a top 10 contender. I think Derby Dudes poll has him as right around seventh or eighth.
That's probably right around where I'd have him, kind of the back end of the top 10. I think he fits right there. And, this is a poll that we're going to get a couple sorted out because we have Gunrunner and Motom both running. So that'll kind of sort out that group a little bit more. But I think for the most part, they're pretty spot on. I mean, you can sit here and argue all day about Mohamed, Nyquist, More Spirit, Dancing Candy, but they're probably the right four. Like I said last week, I'd personally would put Dancing Candy ahead of More Spirit. I think that he's a little bit more of a brilliant individual. But I think that, the horses who should be kind of in that top 10 are the ones that they have here.
Well, let's take a look at this week's racing. At the fairgrounds, we have the Fairgrounds Oaks and the Louisiana Derby. And I'm looking forward to both of these races. I know sometimes when you see a lot of these horses rematch up against one another, sometimes it really doesn't change much. But I think the surface was a little bit difficult the last time. And I really think you add in some interesting newcomers this time. I'm looking forward to both races, and I think it is going to sort out kind of those top 10 contenders for both the Oaks and the Derby. And I thought the Oaks race came up solid, especially with Landover Sea shipping in from out west.
I think it came up definitely solid, and what I like about it is we're going to get the same horses facing each other again, but probably a very likely to be a different pace scenario from last time. Remember last time they went extremely fast. Venus Valentine just kind of swooped over the top of them. This time I don't see nearly that pace scenario. In fact, I see Midnight on a Sony being lone speed. She's going to be my pick here. I loved her race last time out. I thought she was fantastic. To finish second, only losing by a length when she was right up in the thick of everything all the way around the track. I thought she had a really rough trip, having to go that fast, having to be out wide at points. This is a really, really nice horse. I think she's lone speed here, and the best part of it is I don't think she'll be favored. I think Landover Sea will be favored coming in with that Songbird form. So I'm all over this race. Midnight on Sony's going to get a big bet from me.
Now, the last time out, stage play was right around even money, and Venus Valentine was right around 40 to 1. What do you kind of do with stage play? Because she definitely was running wide in the middle of the track, and she was kind of up near that pace, but she's kind of stopped pretty badly. But she's had 4 workouts since then, so you got kind of some mixed signals.
She did. She stopped badly. I think we've seen some disappointing efforts from Asmussen horses in the last kind of week or two. As fast as his barn kind of really got hot, they've gone cold right away as well, especially with some of these horses he's had on the Derby trail. It seems like, in the Derby and the Oaks, he's had some individuals who have run big races, got their names out there as being contenders, and then when they're, asked the question, they flop. And I don't know why that keeps happening, but it seems to be kind of a hallmark of his barn in these 3-year-old races this year. So I'm going to risk her in this spot. Like I said, she was in a similar position to Midnight Onosoni and was clearly beaten. So I couldn't touch stage play here.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning against Venus Valentine. Midnight Onosoni, last time was able to kind of rate off the pace, then made a nice move mid-race. It looked like for a while there that she may kind of kick away from it, but they all just kind of really staggered late. A horse that's moving up in class that I'm going to take a little shot at here is Adore. This one also trained by Asmussen. What I like about the last race was there was kind of 2 groups of horses. There was a top flight of 4, and then there was a couple lengths back to another group of 4. And in that top group of 4, Adore was kind of 4 wide, sitting in 4th. But she really was only a length and a half off the pace. So I think people may think, I think she's got enough speed to hang with the leaders, and yet if nobody wants the lead, I really like the way she kicked away down the lane. So I'm going with Adore. She's 5 or 6 to 1. I think stage play could bounce back. And then, Landover Sea, I really like that form, and it's not like she was ever going to win against Songbird, but she did actually finish up strongly in those races. And I'm not even watching Songbird stand up. I just thought Landover Sea actually finished pretty good in a couple of those races.
Oh, I thought she did as well. This is a quality individual who we really haven't got to see the best of her because she's been running against Songbird every single time. But, she's one who definitely is going to have a say in this race. And, I think even as far as a horse, if you're playing your tries and you want to throw something on the back end that could be a big price, another horse from California, Street Fancy. I don't look at her as a win threat here by any means, and she certainly flopped badly in the Lost Virginist. But she was first up off a long break. Street Fancy was a horse who she won the Starlet over Stays in Vegas, who I think is a nice horse in her own right. So, for a horse who could maybe be coming from the back, making up some ground late, could kind of swoop into third and add some value to your tries. I think Street Fancy is the horse for that sort of a position. Like I said, I wouldn't bet her to win, but my win is full on Midnight on Oconee. But if you're just looking for a little bit of value underneath, I think you could do worse than Street Fancy.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you could go some different ways in the exactas and the trifectas. You're going with Midnight and Oconee on top. I'm going with Adore. I think, besides Songbird, there's a big nebulous gray area who's going to step up and be the second, third, and fourth choices in the Kentucky Oaks. So I think it's definitely going to be a key prep. Immediately following the Fairgrounds Oaks, we have the Louisiana Derby. And I thought we'd highlight, before we get into our selections here, really just take a look kind of at this field. We've got several horses coming out of the Risen Star.
Yes.
And then shipping in from Gulfstream, we have Greenpoint Crusader. And I think there's a differing of opinion on him. Is he just a slop lover? Is he a distance horse? Kind of a weird training regimen. He ran early, late in January, and then now he's had a bunch of weeks off. And if he does do well here, he'd have 6 more weeks off. So Greenpoint Crusader, I guess, kind of where you're at with him.
I mean, I've always kind of been the opinion of him that he's just freaked over the sloppy track and that he's not the same horse over a dry track. So I've kind of really tried to stick to my guns with that. And for that reason, 7-2 seems like an awful, awful price on him if that's what holds. And, he's going to be short because he was second to Mo Heyman in the Holy Bull. But that was a race that there just wasn't that much there. I mean, he beat Fellowship, who just kind of is what he is at this point. So Greenpoint Crusader is certainly the short price here I think you have to take a stand against.
Another horse shipping in from Gulfstream is Battery, trained by Todd Pletcher. Javier Castellano rides, and he does well at the fairgrounds. Again, kind of some mixed signals. He's going up in class, but he has the pedigree, and he's got a couple of speed figures that put him in the mix at least.
Yeah, I mean, he's ran over this trip before, which none of the others have, so you don't have to worry about the distance with him. He has Javier Castellano aboard, which is always a positive, but I mean, this is a horse who got destroyed by Cherry Wine in the allowance at Gulfstream Park in January, and I actually thought in his February win, again at Gulfstream, that the runner-up, All Up in Lights, was better than him. So I'm not a huge fan of the horse. I can understand why people like him with the connections and because he has ran over this trip, but I think he's a little bit slow.
Then we got a couple of Oaklawn shippers. One is Conquest Windy City, and the other one is Dazzling Gem. Before we kind of talk about the actual race itself, kind of sort out those two.
Conquest Windy City was really impressive in his 2016 debut. I liked the way he shaped in that race. The problem is I think horses from that barn tend to be primed a lot first time off of the long break, so I don't necessarily expect an improvement off of that effort in this spot, but I don't think he necessarily needs to improve to hit the board. He would need to win, so I couldn't have him to win here, but a horse who can kind of be swooping from the back and get third or so, I think that's certainly within his realm of possibility. That's Conquest Windy City. Dazzling Gem's intriguing. He's one of the more intriguing ones in the spot because he's very lightly raced. I think he's eligible to further improvement compared to some of these who've ran, 6, 7, 8 times. He's only ran twice. He won both of them. His most recent race, especially, what I thought was really impressive because he was up on a pretty fast pace, and he was still able to beat Gray Sky and Mad Tap, both of whom we saw at Oaklawn last week. So this is an interesting individual, especially in a race that I don't think has a ton of speed out front. So, he's one that he's probably not the most likely winner, but you wouldn't want to let him go out on his own out front because he certainly is dangerous in that sort of a position.
Well, let's take a look at more in depth at the race. We've got several of these horses coming back from the Risen Star. And one thing about the Risen Star, Candy My Boy had the 13 hole that day. And it was pretty much universally scripted out that he was going to be sent hard. Even the trainer of Mo Tom in a couple of radio interviews said that. He goes, well, with Candy My Boy getting the 13 hole, he goes, there's no doubt in mind he's going to get sent. And then he was sent, and he set fast fractions. Mm-hmm. Does he do that from the 5 hole? Maybe we don't have as much of a pace this time, or, sometimes a horse can actually slow down the pace and run worse too, because everybody that's equal to him just kind of stays close to him, and then they just all finish him.
I think he goes forward, but I don't think he's sent nearly like he was from the wide post last time. He had never gone that fast early in his races before, so he's going to be up there, but I think typically he sets a little bit more of a moderate pace. So I don't expect this race to really kind of collapse like it did last time out.
Then, we had the big finish between Forever a Mo, Gunrunner, and Mo Tom. And again, some different opinions on, some people thought Gunrunner was kind of fading late. Other people highlighted the trip on Mo Tom. I guess where do you kind of see and then make your selection?
For me, I love the way that Gunrunner looked from start to finish in that race. I thought that he finished off the race better than Forever Mo. Motom had the obvious troubles, but I think he's going to get really overbet because of it. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Motom ultimately goes off favored in this spot. And for that race, I'm going to pick Gunrunner. I mean, Gunrunner, far and away, I think, was beating Motom. I think even with the treble, he might have been closing on Gunrunner, but he wasn't going to pass him. And, of course, Motom would have been benefiting from the fast tempo in that race, being that he was coming from further behind. So I think Gunrunner ran much better than people are giving him credit for. And with a race that's shaping up to not be nearly as fast early, I think he's only more dangerous. So I'm going to pick Gunrunner on top here.
Yeah, I looked at that race differently. I thought Mo Tom had the obvious trouble, but I thought he was kind of beaten at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, and he really, yeah, he was closing at the end, but he lost by a good 15 feet. And you can't quantify the trouble, but was it really 15 to 20 feet? I mean, I think everybody likes to say it was, but you really can't quantify that. So I thought he was kind of a beaten horse, and then he seemed to have newfound energy after kind of getting shook up there a little bit. Two horses that I think, I really do think that track was finicky the last time. I mean, Outside just had no shot the entire day. And Tom's Ready had never ran a bad race going into that race. To this day, I still watch that replay, and after a 16th of a mile, Tom's Ready's one length off the lead, sitting 7 wide. And I'm just like, that was not a trip to win that day. And I think he's going to go back to last and make a sweeping run. People forget 2 races back into LeCompte, he had the lead midway down the stretch after making a move. So I think Tom's Ready has some very dirtied up form. And then Uncle Walter, who was right outside of Tom's Ready the last race, now he gets blinkers, goes inside, and if it's a fair surface, I just think you got to throw out that last race for him as well. And we saw that LeCompte wasn't a bad race. Mo Tom runs good every time. Desson came back to win a couple. Maybe Uncle Walter could fill out that 3rd, 4th, 5th slot.
Well, and he's going to be a big prize, so if you can snag him and Tom's Ready underneath, you certainly have the opportunity for balloons. And Uncle Walter, especially, you think that he's going to stay a big price because of where he finished last time. But, those are the ones that we've talked about this before, horses who lose by 20, 30, 40 lengths, that a lot of times just draw a line because they didn't really lose by that badly. That it's not, the race isn't going to plan and you pull up the horse.
Well, I really see a slower pace. I see Candy Boy setting it, but I think this time he can get engulfed by 4 or 5 horses. I think the post position was not kind to Forever a Mo. Gunrunner, I'm going to select, but how I'm going to approach this race is every once in a while, I mean, I always pick one horse, but sometimes when I have an opinion, in this race, I'm not a big Mo Tom fan, especially to win it.
Same.
I'm going to bet this race as Gunrunner to win, and then I'm playing 2 horses. I absolutely loved Conquest Windy City's last race. I like his debut race. Then he faced winners in a stakes race, and then came back and won back-to-back races. And I just love that race at Oakland. He just tucked in the pocket, looked like he loved the distance. His gallop out was strong. 3 workouts since that race, 2 at 5 furlongs. I think he's got a chance to win, and I'm going to play it so that if he does win, I can win some money. I'll play it so if Gunrunner wins, I make a little bit of money. And then I'm playing Tom Ready just a little bit because I think Tom's Ready is really going to be high odds. And I just can't go back. 2 races back, halfway down the stretch, he had the lead in that race. And I just think those are the 2 horses that are going to be underplayed. I'm picking Gunrunner, but I think every once in a while I play like this, where I just play 3 horses to win, and if one of those goofballs can win, in my opinion really is I just don't like Mo Tom. I'm not really a big Forever a Mo fan.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a similar approach. I completely agree that I'm very against Motom. I don't love Forever Mo either. So for me, this is the type of race I'd bet Gunrunner to win, and then I would just box Exacta with Dazzling Gem, Uncle Walter, Tom's Ready, and just try to get those other short prices out of there. If I can get one of those three underneath Gunrunner, or reverse, because since we're boxing the Exacta, we'll get paid.
Yeah, I do like Dazzling Gem as well. I mean, his form lines have just proven so strong so far, and especially when American Pioneer came back and dominated that last race at Oaklawn on Sunday. I mean, those two went tooth and nail in that maiden race, and I knew at the time it was a good race. The speed figure came back solid, and I really like it when they back it up with another high speed figure. And then now they've kind of split up. Now the only thing is he kind of did miss a couple of days of training with a foot abscess. That always worries me a little bit. But he's had a couple of works since then. And he's galloped, and there's been pictures of him on the track. And haven't seen any bath pictures yet, so I don't know if he takes a good bath. But we know at
I
least he's
think
been on the track.
Sawyer's Mickey from his maiden race too came back and ran a place in the Battaglia as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you're seeing some form lines there. And one thing is normally in the past, Oaklawn and the fairgrounds, they do like a lot of horses ship back and forth during the meet, not just the stakes races. So the difference between the two tracks is Oaklawn has a short stretch, 908 feet, and fairgrounds has a long stretch, 1,320 feet. So a lot of times that's a powerful angle. You take a horse that fades at the fairgrounds if they're going to Oaklawn, and vice versa. If a horse stretch runs at Oaklawn, that's why I really think Conquest Windy City and Dazzling Gem are going to run well in this spot. And I think there's going to be some inefficiency in the tote board because even a horse like Forever a Mo, he was 70-1 the last time. I think he comes down a little bit. Uncle Walter and Tom's Ready really go up, and Mo Tom is just going to get overplayed, and Candy Boy is probably going to drop way down in odds.
Yeah, I think my Candy My Boy's gonna take money too, and like you said, but these are the races I love to bet, where it was Motom Gunrunner face each other last time, Gunrunner wins, and maybe Motom goes off the shorter price in this spot. Go figure.
And Greenpoint Crusader, I mean, he'll probably be at the bottom half of my exactas. He won't be on the win end. I do think, I think the top three horses will pretty much point to the Derby. Mm-hmm. So I think, a horse like Conquest Windy City is really just, like you say, looking to finish first, second, or third. I think Dazzling Gem's looking to finish first, second, or third. I mean, Motom could win, but, I think we saw it last week with sudden breaking news. Like those deep closers, you're not going to get that explosive kick every time.
Well, and they went fast last time. That's what people are forgetting. Yeah, he had trouble at the end, but he, up to that point, had the ideal setup. And he still had quite a bit of ground to make up. So even without the trouble, even if he had, say he didn't have that trouble and he would have nailed Gunrunner by a nose, I still would pick Gunrunner here because Motom got the absolutely ideal setup pace-wise.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like you say, the result really doesn't matter. Like you say, if he would have beaten Gunrunner by a half length, I think, you would still come back to Gunrunner because he has more track tactical speed. And then, like you say, maybe you take some of these other newcomers like, Dazzling Gem or, make a case for an Uncle Walter or Tom's Ready or even a Zapparini and Forever a Mo. I mean, I'm not on him, but I almost kind of like Forever a Mo better than Mo Tom.
Yeah, no, me too. And I mean, these two races are good ones as far as betting goes because, at least for me, it's two completely different approaches. Whereas the Phillies race, I'm just hard all win midnight on Oconee. This is one where I'm more trying to really construct, exactas and tries to get out the short prices that I don't like, being Motom, Greenpoint Crusader, and Forever Mo.
All right, now off the track, you are really off the track this week. You are in Dubai,
yeah.
And a couple of days away from the Dubai World Cup.
Yep.
Before we get your pick there, just kind of talk about what's it like experiencing Dubai.
Well, I don't know. I leave today. I'm in Hong Kong right now, so it's been great here. After we're done with this, I go to the airport and I fly to Dubai, so we'll find out. I'll be out at the track in the morning, so hopefully I'll get to see California Chrome especially, because there's been a lot of kind of differing opinions on how he's looked in the morning, and he is a horse who I've seen in the flesh several times, so I'll be able to trust my opinion because I know what he typically looks like when he looks good, at least. So I'm excited to see that, and really good racing. And like I've said on a few other places, I'm just so glad that America has sent out a pretty big group of horses this time, because shipping really, to other countries isn't something that we do a lot. So I'm glad that now that we have the opportunity to ship to these dirt races, that we're really participating in, full force.
Well, make a selection in the Dubai World Cup.
My top choice in there is going to be Frosted. I think he's the most well met, being the Godolphin horse in this spot. I've said in a few places, like, this is his Breeders' Cup, this is his Kentucky Derby, this is the race they've had circled on the calendar in a big red marker for a long time. They're going to be aggressive with him out of the gate, they said, which I think is the way he needs to be ridden, because he is a little bit one-paced, but I think he's a pretty strong stayer. So for me, this is a race where there's going to be a pretty fast pace. I think he's just going to go forward, and if he can outstay the other front runners, that being Hoko Teramai, California Chrome, especially, I think then he probably wins the race. The biggest danger to him is probably Mushawish, I would say, but Mushawish over 10 furlongs, it's a little bit sketchy as well. He has not ran over that trip very often, so I'm picking Frosted on top, but if you're looking for the straight exact, I'd play him right over Mushawish.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Frosted. Mitchell Wish is kind of a play against for me, just because I don't know. There's a lot of difference between facing Valid
Yeah.
and facing some of these other horses. And 10 furlongs, he hasn't worked in 10 days. I don't agree with that theory where they worked him out that real long, fast workout, 58, and then go 12 days up without working. I know he's been galloping, but it's not the same. He's got bad feet. He gets no Lasix. I think he's a play against. I'm going to take the plotters behind Frosted. You got to throw out as slow as Keen Ice is. That last race was a toss out,
Yeah.
and Opportunity doesn't know where he's running. He just plugs along all the time. So if you get a little bit of a pace, I think he can beat Mr. Wish, and I think he could be the key to that third or fourth place.
Yeah, I mean, Keen Ice, I picked him third in there when I did my selections. I agree, I think an improved effort is likely. I mean, the last race was so bad, but a lot went wrong. One, he was on a ridiculously inside speed bias track, so he had no chance before he even walked into the gate. And I think, they really realized that that's how the track was playing, and they tried to ride him very vigorously early to try to get him as forward as they possibly could, knowing the track was so biased. But then the problem with that is that then he didn't settle because they were riding him so hard early. Blinkers go on here. I don't think that necessarily is going to keep him in touch with the leaders, but it just might help him to stay a little bit on task more than he has been. I know Ryan Moore's the one riding him, and he said he was the one who suggested putting the blinkers on.
Yeah, I don't think the blinkers will hurt, and like you say, I don't think he has any speed to show speed.
No.
But like you say, maybe at least keep him focused, so that way when if the speed comes back, they can be sitting, maybe only 6, 7 lengths out rather than 10 or 12 out, which is just a whole, it's just another game when you're that far out, because you don't see big sweeping moves like at Oaklawn Park and Dubai there. It seems to be more grinding or up near the pace, and yeah, you just don't see sweeping moves like you do at some of these other tracks.
Well, and if anything, too, the kickback is really, really bad at Dubai and Meydan at times. So, if anything, the blinkers will keep the dirt out of his face.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Chrome, this has been circled on their calendar all year, whether or not they can actually get the job done. The thing is with Chrome, he's such a hard trier. He's going to run a good race, but I think a lot of people just really wonder if he's a 10 furlong older horse. Winning the Kentucky Derby in May against 3-year-olds is a whole different story versus being a quality older horse at 10 furlongs.
Yeah, and I mean, like you and I have said in the Derby the last couple of years, the horses who've really been winning it are like 9 furlong horses with technical speed, not true 10 furlong horses. People keep really pointing to the fact that he lost ground last year as being why he lost, but I firmly am against that theory, because Prince Bishop, who won, only traveled 3 feet shorter than him, so it wasn't like he covered substantially more ground than the winner. They drew outside, but they got to pick that draw. They picked to put him there because he's always going to be there. He's always going to be posted up 3 wide. He's a much better horse when he's in the clear. So that's by intended tactics that he's going to be there, and I think that's appropriate for him because he has struggled with kickback in the past. The problem with Chrome at this track is that he has a very short but powerful turn of foot. It's worked so well in America, but at Meydan the stretch is so long. So he goes slingshots off the turn with this really strong turn of foot, bursts like a length or two clear of everyone, but 2 furlongs from the finish, he's treading water, and that's where he gets caught. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the exact same thing happen here. I just think that long stretch run really catches him out.
Yeah, he ran a good race last year. I mean, and there's nothing wrong, normally with second place, but they really came over there to win it. They brought him there plenty in advance. They worked him out. They got his prep races in. They say he's training 5 lengths better than last year, so there's really no excuses. The one thing about Art Sherman is that he ain't gonna offer up any excuses. Maybe some of his fans will, but I think if he loses on the square, Art Sherman will just say, "Yeah, we got beat." So, and that's pretty much what he said last year. And even after the Belmont, he didn't really offer any excuses. So, and Breeders' Cup as well. So I think some of the fans are going to start bringing up distance and post position and all of that. But I think he's got him where he wants him, and Frosted should be set for a good race, and it should be. I think he's just going to run better, and some of the local. I mean, one of those horses will step up from Dubai as well, and it's going to be a solid race.
Yeah, I mean, I said, about a month ago that this has the potential to be the best dirt race of the year anywhere in the world, which sounds bizarre to say because it's not in America where we traditionally see these strong dirt races, but they pretty much took our older handicap group straight to Dubai. That's, people are saying, where are all the horses? That's them. That's our older handicap division right there. So it's going to end up being a really good race.
All right, looking forward to it. And next week we go down to Florida, and we've got the Spiral Stakes, and the Bourbonette. So it should be some more great racing next week right here on Down to the Wire.